All right.
Very cool.
Um,
My lovely assistant got me some glasses. All right.
Simon has glasses. Monty and I are here in Tulsa. We're doing a Zoom interview with Simon for our little Ask Simon segment. And Simon now has these glasses. So we're ready to start doing some questions, I think. How you doing, Simon?
Pretty good. Pretty good. It's 4th of July. It's a Saturday morning. It's a cool 125,000 degrees in Arizona right now.
All right. Well, Tamara decided to make a guest appearance. Do you want to ask our first question there? It's an anonymous one.
Ooh. So you've taken a lot of injuries over the years. Does it take you long to recover after each injury? Especially now that you're older.
Yes, I mean, unless you get a bunch of injuries at the same time, it's always going to take you a little longer each time you get injured because you age. And now bruises that used to take a week or two to go away now take 3 weeks. It's just a matter of age. At 45 years old, and I've been fighting in armor for 25 years, it wears on you.
I'm surprised.
I'm 21 and I already feel it wearing on me. So to follow that one up, someone wants to know, they were anonymous, when will you be fighting in melees again, and how is the knee holding up?
Well, like about 25% of Americans, I was laid off with the COVID thing, and just before I was eligible for insurance. So I don't have insurance, and so the knee surgery is postponed. My ACL is totally torn, so I won't be doing melees anytime soon. I'm good for fighting singles and stuff like that, or if it's a melee where it's maybe like more of a demo than a real highly competitive thing, I could do that. But right now, no melees.
Understandable. That's unfortunate.
So we have a question from the name is Amir Hossein in Karaj, Iran, and he's asking, can an Iranian participate in your sport?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't see why not. Iran has a rich medieval history. You don't have to even wear Iranian armor or anything like that, but I don't see why not. Everybody's welcome.
We all just want to beat each other up. Anyone can do that. All right, Charles Villarreal from the Houston Outlaws asks, Simon, for a new fighter coming into this sport, what is the best thing you could tell them to focus on to help them get better faster?
Cardio, and helmet time. So those two things. The strength will come, obviously going to the gym and working out with weights and that kind of thing is important, but there's no more important weapon to a fighter in armor than experience, and you get that with helmet time, because it's hard to train the level of field awareness and decision making and chaos that is required in a melee. So and cardio is important because you're going to be deprived of air. You're going to make decisions poorly if you're too tired or too gassed, and you're going to lose strength and power if you can't continue. So all the weight training in the world won't help you if you don't have the gas to get it done. It's like having a big giant engine on a car with shitty tires. So you've got to do cardio and helmet time. I think the only way to practice doing helmet time or get that kind of training that you get from fighting without armor, I guess, would be I don't know, maybe go into a heavy metal concert mosh pit and flip everybody off and then wait for the music to start. Maybe training that way. I don't know if that's the safest thing in the world, but otherwise you got to get helmet time.
So mosh pits, big thing for new people wanting to train. Is that the takeaway here?
Exactly.
All right, Sam, you want to ask one from Brian?
Oh yeah, so Brian Gibbons, Tulsa Tyrant, what makes up your nightly diet?
Well, staying low carbs keeps inflammation down and keeps your weight under control. Having a healthy diet is important. For every 5,000, for every pound of extra fat you have, there's 5,000 miles of extra capillaries your heart has to pump blood through. So keeping the amount of fat you have in your body low is important. So lots of protein. I've investigated vegetarian and veganism kind of stuff, and unfortunately, you can get strong and big on a vegetarian diet, but you just won't heal as fast. So you gotta do the meat, or at least pescatarian with eggs and chicken and fish, that kind of thing. But high protein, medium to low carbohydrates, stay away from sugar, and basically the same kind of guidelines that you'd hear from any doctor that's telling you to get your shit together and eat right, is what you'd hear from me, with the exception that you're going to need more protein because you're in a combat sport.
Very cool. So Stephen Walker, who's here in Tulsa, he's a fan. He's not a fighter. He asks, given your proclivity for destruction, has there been a time where you were genuinely scared over what damage you had wrought on your foes? I'm familiar with your own injury horror stories, but wondered if you had any from the other side.
The injuries or the things that I've done to people are generally knockouts or pain compliant. So, either I hit them hard enough where they didn't want to get hit again, so they took a knee. So it was more like a fear injury more than anything. I haven't had anybody where I went, oh my God, what did I just do? Although recently on my YouTube channel, I did post a video where I was demonstrating how to bypass armor, and then I did exactly that in the fight, and I hit him, in basically the top of his thigh, lower belly, bladder region, and he fell so dramatically that I was worried a bit. But I just wait. No amount of freak out's going to change the result of what I've just done, so I might as well just wait until I find out the result and wait to feel bad at that point.
That's fair.
Anonymous asks, as someone with a lot of experience in melees, what in your opinion separates an effective flanker from an ineffective one? And what do you think flankers in general should be working towards as the skill curve of the sport increases?
Field awareness, and as far as skills go, field awareness and speed are the big ones. And field awareness involves, of course, being smart. I think flankers have to make some of the hardest decisions in a melee. As far as what they have to work on, or what they've got to do for skills to be effective, is not to engage directly with opponents. Learning how to hit and run, learning how to take an axe or a sword and at a full run hit someone and not stop, not lose a step. Learning that distance where you can create a hazard by being there, and you can make another fighter aware of you, and where they can't ignore you but not engage directly, is a fine art, and it's part of being a flanker. If you find yourself grappling as a flanker, you've already sort of failed your job already. I mean, it's bound to happen. So, don't worry about it too much. But if you find yourself grappling, much like if you're an axe guy and you find yourself grappling, you've already screwed up somewhere. So staying mobile, not engaging, keeping your ego out of it, and making a menace of yourself while staying disengaged and staying mobile is going to be very important. Moving forward, when we watch some of the best teams in the world, teamwork. Working with your flanker so that you know what he's capable of, and knowing what your team is capable of is important. I've seen mediocre teams that train every day beat extremely talented guys that don't train together at all. That's a personal experience of mine. So teamwork is the most important.
A cohesive team is going to do a lot more than one superstar on your squad, right?
Yeah, there's a saying. What is it? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah, I like that.
So I'm gonna ask a question of my own because I was hoping someone would ask you this. Wasteland Weekend, Simon. You want to talk a little bit about your experiences there? Because I've seen videos of you.
And what is it exactly?
Well, it's a post-apocalyptic LARP essentially. It's like if Burning Man had a very strict theme. that was based off the Mad Max movies. And then you camp out for 5 or 6 days in the desert. You pack everything in, pack everything out, and it's a big party. There's performances and stuff. I go there as a performer and fight in the cage there. So I get a comp ticket. It's kind of nice. And it's a good time. I mean, if you've seen the pictures, you know what kind of a good time it is. And but you got to be able to camp in 100-degree weather.
Which desert is that, and where is it located?
It's in California City, just direct about 6 hours directly west of Phoenix, in
Okay.
Southern California.
Is the fighting, is it more demo? Because I see you guys, like in some of the pictures, you've got no shirt, but you've got these big, menacing looking weapons. Are you guys actually trying to hurt each other, or is it for show?
A little bit of both. I mean, so when I'm wearing lighter armor. If you notice, the weapons are they're basically clubs. So it's like getting hit with like a police baton or something inconsequential like that. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
You don't really need armor for that if you know how to take a hit. We are fighting full force and full speed. There's no show about it. But what happens is because it is kind of for the crowd, it's a full-on fight. And then when you think that someone has really got the best of you, it's kind of like an unspoken rule that if somebody really, really nails you, you just kind of go with it. You sort of go, okay, well, that guy got me dead to rights. You don't have to like take an imaginary hit or anything like that. But if you get really hammered, just go with it. The crowd will love it. The fight will be over. The next guys can come in. So it's sort of both.
Just kind of go with the flow, make it fun for everyone.
Yeah, but it is definitely, we're definitely not messing around on that. And if you've seen some of the videos on my YouTube channel, you notice we use steel weapons as well. And there's metal armor involved with that one.
Sweet. I'll have to check those out. I haven't seen those yet.
Can I ask a question about Wasteland Weekend?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a Jugger League, and do you play Jugger?
There is a Jugger League. I don't play Jugger because it involves the running and pivoting that my knee couldn't handle.
Okay.
Plus, there's a performance aspect to it. So much more so than the cage fighting. The Jugger League, they have plans, they have pre-planned moves, they have some choreography. It's kind of free flow, but then somebody will say, well, I'm gonna do a jump kick and just take it in the chest and I'll pull it, and then you just fly like it's much worse. So it's definitely more of a show, more of a WWF meets rugby meets the apocalypse kind of thing.
If I didn't do steel stuff, Jugger or Luchadora would be my pastime. So
I would agree.
For those of us who don't know, what is Jugger and Luchadora?
like luchador Mexican wrestling
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah,
Jugger.
that's a Mexican wrestling subculture that goes on, and involves the mask. You may have seen it on different things at one point or another.
Oh, it's huge here in Tulsa.
It is. I did not know that.
Yes.
Yeah, it just comes from it's just a different culture. It's like a WWF kind of style, but with a different culture and different kind of traditions. Jugger is a game that started with a science fiction movie called Blood of Heroes with Rutger Hauer, rest in peace. And it was an indie film, kind of lower budget, but it developed a great cult following, and been a sport kind of started out of it. And so nerds that like to be physical decided to recreate it.
So cool.
Yeah, so speaking of side interests, we've got an anonymous question asking how well SCA fighting transfers to steel.
It transfers very well as long as that SCA fighter makes a commitment to cardio training and strength training. The weapon skills and body mechanics are perfect for it, for duels, in fact. And it depends on your mentality. In the SCA, it's a little, I guess, friendlier maybe, as far as, there's a little more leeway given. But in the SEAL sport, of course, that it's a little rougher. you know, and the fight doesn't end with one hit. You have to grind somebody to dust. So as long as the mentality's there, SCA weapon skills are awesome. It's really one of the only other sports where you can get a full speed, full contact hit on somebody and learn that field awareness and group fighting tactics. Some of the best guys in the sport did the SCA for many years. I did the SCA for many years before before the steel fighting became a thing in the U.S. So people that are in the SCA get a huge leg up starting the sport.
Yeah, I can vouch for that because I never did SC or anything, but I've got, grappling background. And every time I find myself with a weapon in my hands, I feel like I would do better without it. So I definitely am a little jealous of those SCA guys who already understand the weapon mechanics more so than someone like me who just, is a violent nerd. Can't handle a weapon. Not yet, anyways.
All right, you want to ask this one from Rory?
I don't even see. Oh. What would be your biggest recommendation for someone getting into the sport?
Try it first. Make sure you like it. Don't make a huge financial commitment until you get recommendations of proper armorers and vendors from your local teammates. It would be, sad to have you spend $3,000 to $5,000 on armor and then decide that it wasn't for you, right? I mean, it's great for us because it just means there's more used armor on the market, but it's really not the best for people that are trying the sport out. So just listen to your local guys, listen to your local teammates, follow their advice. Don't try to, don't try to take your fantasy character armor and massage it into a historical, factual thing. Find a historical, factual effigy and then make the armor from there.
So what if you're in Iran and there isn't a steel community yet? Any suggestions on how to start one up?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I know that there's in Iran there's a lot of strong nationalistic support. So if somebody were to couch that in a sort of heritage, reenacting our heritage kind of scenario, maybe you'd get a lot of support from that. As far as starting your own league there, I don't know the first thing about what legalities or what kind of hurdles you have other than the fact that there isn't a steel community really there that I know of. And, I don't know what kind of sanctions there are or what kind of shipping issues there would be with getting armor and that kind of thing. But I would say the internet is probably the best tool to get things started, because the only advice you're going to get is people that are, thousands of miles away. And you're going to need at least 2 people to do it.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Well, and most of us, I think, really like the idea of helping people get steel started in places it doesn't exist. So, I mean, it's not like they would struggle to find enthusiastic supporters on the internet.
Right, exactly.
So this one is weird to me. It's anonymous. What's the most painful weapon to get hit by?
The weapon you don't see that hits a gap in your armor is really the answer to that. But of course, the two-handed weapons are the worst. In my personal experience, those 14-pound steel and ash flails on Night Flight Episode 7 were gnarly. They're extremely hard to block, and the ends accelerate when you block them. So I think those are some of the hardest hits that I've taken. A single hit blacked my eye right through my helmet.
I rewatched that fight recently.
Oh yeah, I mean, the only guy that's ever been able to black my eye with a single hit in the helmet was Austin Ponticelli hit me with a 2-handed axe when I didn't take him seriously as a new fighter, and I think he runs a sledgehammer all day for his dad at a construction company, and being 6'8" and I don't know 350 pounds or whatever ridiculous thing it is, that helped. But so it's the person and the weapon combination is really what it is. But those flails there's a reason why they don't use flails in our sport. Even the quote unquote crazy Russians who use hammerback poles and stuff like that we don't allow in the United States, which I don't have a problem with, but whatever, that's another discussion. They don't use flails either. for a good reason.
So maybe we can talk about that a little more. What differences do we see overseas armored fighting versus domestic here in the U.S. in terms of like weapons, rule sets, community?
Well, you see, the rail grabbing or the rail humping thing is a strategy that works well, but looks like crap to the spectators and annoys me personally because it draws fights out a long time, and my cardio sucks. So I don't like it. But you know, you see a lot more. Well, up until recently, you see a lot more athleticism and skills because they've just had more time. I mean, when we started this in 2012, you know, that was the first year, and they were down that path a decade before we ever started. So the learning curve is it's hard to keep. You can't, unless you have a time machine, you can't make up that learning curve and that experience. So you wind up with, sorry about that. You wind up with what you got, which is more advanced skills, more athleticism, and more support overseas. You also see some other things too, like in the United States, when you want to throw an event, you have to make it pay for itself. In a lot of countries, there's budgetary and government backing for free space to enjoy cultural reenactment. But here, because I guess people forgot that there's a bunch of people from Europe in America, they don't think that armored combat is a heritage thing, so don't get any support. So in other countries, when they have events and stuff, a lot of times those places are free, or the practice spaces are free and all that. So the flights, if you even have to fly, it's going to be 2 hours maximum, unless you're in Russia. You know, there's a lot more countries, a lot more fighters. They don't have to travel as much. They don't have to pay for their events like we do. So there's a different atmosphere as far as trying to get the stuff to at least pay for itself. So skills, financial considerations, the size of the potential market for fans, because in Europe, you know, they look at armored combat as like a heritage thing and gets a lot of respect, versus in America, we're a bunch of like LARP dork nerds, you know, that should be, I guess, be doing cowboys and Indians instead of armored combat. I'm not really sure, but yeah. So there's a lot to unpack there, but skills are really the big difference.
So we're the new guys in the community, internationally speaking.
Well, not so much anymore, but we definitely were. And you know, the last few tournaments, I've seen some teams show skills that are similar to what I see in the top teams in Europe.
Very cool.
William Kay of the Temple Templars, what advice would you give to new fighters trying to put together their first kit? And what advice would you give them for at-home training, which is pretty timely since a lot of us are training at home?
Right. So we kind of touched on it before, and that was just make sure to listen to your teammates. And when you're trying to get your armor together, don't try to mash together what you think looks cool. I mean, try to look cool, because if you look cool and you feel cool, you're going to like your sport. You're going to like what you're fighting in. But one of the mistakes that I saw happen early on was trying to take something that you thought was cool, and then after the fact, try to get it to fit within a historical time frame, within the 50-year window. And that was very difficult, and sometimes, you know, just didn't work. So find an effigy, find a historically documented kit head to toe, make sure it meets the authenticity requirements of your chosen organization, and then put that armor together exactly as it's supposed to be put together. Trying to go the other way is a much bigger hassle.
Speaking of kits, I'm getting kit. I have a helmet and just placed my order yesterday.
Oh, nice! You'll find it very therapeutic. I think you'll like
I'm
it.
super excited.
We've got a pretty big ladies team growing.
Yeah, we do. I'm stubborn.
And Brandon will probably get less abuse at home as well, so that's always good.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, man.
So speaking of armor, there's an anonymous question. They want to know where you got your armor. I guess it's time for you to give a shout out to your armorer.
Oh, so two main sources: Ice Falcon, Andre's armor, Ice Falcon. I still have the armor that was made for me from the first event. It's actually much heavier than it needs to be, but I'm kind of cheap, so I don't feel like buying new armor because we didn't know what we were going to face. So we were a bunch of SCA LARPers who were suddenly found themselves in some kind of medieval blood sport thing, and so we were pretty freaked out. So we made 12 gauge spring steel leg armor and stuff like this. That's what I've got. And then Azier Metalworks made my helmet, which is an amazing helmet. It's been around the block. It's the same helmet I've worn since the beginning, and I still wear it. So those are the two. And then Gritter gauntlets, of course, if you like your fingers.
Yeah, I got my thumbnail busted off in one of my first fights because I blocked with my hand and it just went right through it. So it's not fun, not a recommended experience. But can you touch on that story? I know you mentioned that you and a group of fighters were some of the first in the U.S. to go internationally to fight. Can you touch on how that happened and your first time fighting?
Well, I had actually posted this meme on my Facebook where this knight comes from off screen and jump kicks this guy in the back of the head and knocks him down. Hits him so hard the guy almost flips over in place. And then kind of does like a little victory dance and then runs off and starts fighting. And it was just a little, just a little meme, is it a GIF or a GIF? I don't even know anymore. But anyway, it's, I posted that and said, oh my God, where can I do this? Because I'd always been sort of dissatisfied with the lack of real violence in the STA. And so my friend Jay Altree, known as Duke Trelon in the SCA, contacted me and said that the first US team is forming and is going to go overseas in about 3 months. And so I ordered my armor immediately. And then that was it. I think I lost you. Sorry, hold on. Can you still see me?
We hear you.
Yeah, you're good.
So it was an immediate thing. I saw it and I ordered my armor instantly, and then I told Bill Bam Bam Woodbury about it, and he was vacillating here and there. I don't quite, so long ago, I can't remember who was actually unsure. I don't know if I told him about it and I wasn't sure and I hadn't ordered. I think actually now I remember now. He told me, I told him about it and he said, there's only going to be one group that's going to be first ever. And that was really what did it. I remember now. I was vacillating about buying the armor because it was like $3,000, $4,000, and we were in the middle of a startup and we didn't have a lot of money. In fact, that was like basically my only money, and because we weren't getting paid regularly, so we had just gotten some money from a windfall sale, and we didn't know when we were going to get paid again. And I just rolled the dice after he said that. He said there's only going to be one time where there's going to be a first, and it's like, God damn it. And so that threw me over the edge, I think, now that I recall. And then he followed suit because he wanted to go as well. And we went over there, and of course, we show up and it's in Poland. Nobody speaks English. Nothing is set up for any American fighters at all, which is fine. It's to be expected. We're not the center of the universe. And we saw people getting carted off. We saw like 12 ambulances. We saw 12 people get carted off on stretchers before we're fighting. And keep in mind, back then it was even a little rougher and gnarlier than it is now. Now it's had more time to evolve and get refined. But even then, it was different. And, certain teams had, special weighted weapons that didn't get inspected and all kinds of interesting things. And, we were freaked out. I mean, I was so scared. I just did a lot of running because I didn't want to get hit. I didn't know what getting hit with a metal weapon was going to be like. I mean, I knew what a sword would be like because our first practice in Springfield, we didn't have our weapons, and a lot of us didn't have our armor, including myself. So I just went out with like leather armor and a gambeson, and they had steel weapons, but there was no steel axes. And so that was fine. But, I didn't know what getting hit with a steel axe was going to be like. So I just did what I did in the SCA, which is when in doubt, run the guy over. And so that's what I did. But yeah, we were for the most part terrified. I mean, because like I said, we were just we were kind of just a bunch of LARPers. Some of us very skilled and athletic LARPers, but still, we had never seen anything like this. And there's people getting knocked unconscious and leaving in stretchers, and it was also on that tournament. It was hotter in Poland that day than it was in North Africa. I remember it was over 100 degrees. It was humid and horrible, and there was no water and no shade, and we had to stand up in the sun because we couldn't listen. We couldn't hear our names called because nothing was in English. So we'd have to wait for, blah, 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 Amerikanischer or something like that, Amerikanski, and then we'd be like, oh, I think that's our turn, and then we sat in the sun with no water or anything. And then we finally got some water, and we thought, oh, this is great. We finally got some water, and it was all sparkling water. It was all like fizzy. That's what they drink there. And, we don't drink that here. And it wasn't exactly refreshing. So it was a lot of fun though. We had the full experience. We had traveling bands of people go through our stuff and steal from our tents in the true medieval fashion.
So it was an adventure.
Yeah, it was definitely an adventure.
It really sounds like a genuine medieval adventure and an awesome experience.
Yeah, it was life-changing, obviously, because here I am, 7-8 years later doing this. So I guess 8 years now.
You want to do Grant Kessler from Houston?
Yeah, so Grant asks, what exercise practice activity has helped you the most through all of your fighting?
Oh, you know what? I didn't cover the at-home workout bit, I think, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So at-home workouts, unfortunately, I'm not a good example of that because, my routine was gym-based. And so now with the plague going on.
Now, hang on. We saw you improvising weights at home. We saw some pictures.
Well, that's true. So I have, my girlfriend's about 100 pounds. So I use her as a 100-pound weight for, I have her sit on my back and I'll do push-ups or use her to rep out shoulder presses or curls or something. But, your mileage may vary. I don't know how many 100-pound elbows you can use it as free weights. But if you got one, you can definitely use it. Maybe give it a sock, make it free, and then it'll come back and you can use it for free weights or something. The one major exercise, I'll tell you, front squats really, really helped me. I know people hate them, but use a front squat with a modified grip because my shoulders don't go back, but a front squat that where the bar comes across your chest like this and you kind of cross your arms, that one really, really helped out because, you can see people will jump and hang on your neck either with a pole arm or try to grapple you and bring your head down and drag your head down. And wherever your head goes, your body goes. So the front squat, because it makes you keep the weight up and keeps it from falling forward while you're doing a squat, it strengthens the entire upper and lower lumbar along with your legs. And so that can really, really help you stay on your feet and be strong when somebody is hanging off your neck and they just want to suicide you and they pick their feet up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Happens to me a lot. People will kind of target me, I guess with good reason. And they'll send somebody out there whose entire job is to just hang on my neck and keep me from being effective. And so having front squats increases that explosive power and makes you strong enough to resist that kind of thing, and deal with it and not tire you out. So that was the big one.
I've done that job, by the way, Simon, that hang on to Simon till he gets tired. It's a horrible job.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, that's for sure.
No.
All right, Reed Herring from Louisiana says, first off, congratulations on your success. I thoroughly enjoyed Night Fight. Those flails were disgusting, which brings me to my first question. What is the worst injury you've received through your career in armored fighting? And then 2, what injury is the most common? As I am a new member in Louisiana, there are no groups close to me, so my long-term goal is to start a group. Is there any advice you could give for such an endeavor?
Well, the worst injury, I mean, so I got my skull fractured. I got a hole punch fracture in my skull, where the bone fragment was driven into my brain a centimeter or so. And that felt like basically hitting your head in the corner of a cabinet door. You know, you ever like hang out in the kitchen and forget you got a cabinet door open and you stand up and just spike your head on the corner of that thing? That's pretty much how it felt. And that was painful. That was like enough to cross my eyes a little bit. But other than that, I mean, getting hit in the unprotected ass with a 2-handed axe sucks. I had somebody do that to me at FitCon last year. But I don't really, other than like big catastrophic hits like that, I don't really notice much when I get hit, except for like the really gnarly ones. So, but the skull fracture, that was the worst. I've broken my hands, I don't know how many times. I rarely notice until after the fighting. But yeah, that was the ACL. When I tore my ACL at FitCon, I noticed that there was a mechanical failure in my knee, but it didn't hurt at the time. It only hurt later, but it still wasn't as painful as that headshot without a helmet with an axe, which makes sense, I guess.
And that is where the Simon strap is now a regulated thing that every helmet has to have.
Yeah. Oh, and as far as advice goes, when you're starting a new group, make sure that you've got the money and the time, because it is very money and time intensive. Understand that and this is something I had to learn. There's a lesson I had to learn, which is that not everybody is going to be a fighter, but some people just want the workout, the camaraderie, and the sport of it. So don't like run off non-combatants. Treat them like a really valuable fighter, because not only are they going to help fill your coffers in case you start a club and start charging dues or whatever, but they're going to be your support, and they're invaluable. So make sure that the sort of Cro-Magnon fighter nerd culture doesn't drive off what can be your most valuable assets, who will never pick up a weapon. That's very important. That's a lesson I had to learn.
Yeah, you'll get people who don't want to fight who are great smithers. They will help you squire. They'll help you do maintenance on your armor. Any passive person you can get in your group, I say take them.
Right, and I've seen where it's sort of the, as generally as nerds, we try not to have that dude bro jocular culture thing, but because of the nature of the sport, it kind of breeds it anyway, regardless of what kind of assholes you might have dealt with in high school. That jocular athletic, quit being a sissy and, buck up and fight, or your opinion doesn't matter if you don't fight kind of attitude runs off a lot of really valuable resources. And, we didn't face that directly here, but I saw it happen enough where I took that lesson to heart before it became a problem here.
As someone who helps organizations on the logistical side, get more soccer moms, because they're really good at organizing events. They'll bring snacks.
Yeah.
They'll have
the van with the water.
Yes, water. Anytime anybody asks me for advice, I'm like, find soccer moms or, non-combatants that have time for that sort of thing, that have experience with logistics.
And to also try to make inroads with your local reenactment groups, whatever those reenactment groups might be, whether it's Fantasy LARPers or SCA or any group that's like that. You're going to have a lot of crossover interest, and depending on how you approach them, can determine whether you have a town full of allies or you have a bunch of people that think you're an asshole.
Yeah, we have a great relationship locally with our HEMA community. And so it's always strange when I go on social media and there's all the weird HEMA bro versus Boohurt bro drama stuff that plays out. I'm like,
We love it.
we don't have it here. We just try to support, swords are cool, armor's cool.
Yeah, that kind of thing annoys me because it reminds me of people throwing rocks at each other when they're in the same boat. Like, can you imagine being on the same boat, on either end of the same boat, shooting cannons at each other? That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah.
My phone's about to die, so I'm gonna fix it.
Okay. Well, we've only got a couple questions left anyway. We'll try to be brief.
Okay.
The next one is an anonymous question, and I'm interested in this personally because I missed out on a duel with you at FitCon due to a concussion. But they want to know what made you want to fight polearm.
Oh, well, it's a long question. So basically, I was a sword and shield guy in the SCA for many, many years. Going down that sword and shield medieval wanna be a king someday path. And I started training with a heavier and heavier stick to strengthen my shoulder so that when I fought in tournaments, I could use a lighter stick and really, really hit people fast and quick. And I blew my rotator cuff out and in my shoulder. And then the only other weapon form that I could find that I liked, it doesn't use the right shoulder very heavily, was polearm, especially that quote unquote left-handed stance that I used. And that happened, gosh, 15 years ago or something like that. And I didn't look back. The polearms in the polearm dueling in steel combat is perfect because I don't have to deal with somebody that's wearing really light sport optimized duelist armor that weighs 20 pounds or something, because you can get away with that kind of thing when you're fighting sword and shield duels or something like that. You can't get away with light armor and polearm. So I know that because I have heavy armor, I have heavy melee armor. Not only do I have heavy melee armor, but I have heavy armor I have extra heavy armor anyway. So I know that person isn't going to skimp on the armor, especially if they're going to be fighting me. So I know I won't be at a disadvantage in that way. And I'm not fast enough necessarily to be at the top ranks of longsword, but I can move a polearm quick enough to score points and to cause problems. So I stick with that.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I would definitely not fight you in jack chains or something like that.
That would be like, oh, how many compound fractures can we get in one sitting?
Right. I like my arms where they are.
Yeah.
Monty, do you want to take us home? There's just that one last question.
Yeah, we've got one more from Wyatt Campbell out of Hanover, Massachusetts. I was curious about how you got into the sport and how others who are interested should go about joining.
Well, I got into medieval reenactment combat because I was playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was 19, back in 1994, and went down to a park and saw people beating each other up, and that was it for me. In the steel combat, I kind of covered that story a little bit about how I just found out from a meme on the internet that this thing even existed. So that's my story. I also like the aspect. I sort of bought into that Victorian fantasy of knighthood and chivalry. I mean, if you're a history dork, you know that really wasn't the case. There were a lot of thugs and horrible people that were knights and had nothing to do with any chivalry or anything. And the chivalry code is written by like some dude in France who few people listen to. But I bought into that sort of idea of chivalry and sportsmanship and everything like that. So that was something that attracted me, because I could be physical, I could be athletic, but I could also be a sportsman and have good behavior and courage, versus some of the other combat sports you see. good behavior isn't encouraged, and sportsmanship isn't either, it seems. So that's what really attracted me to it.
Yeah, I really love the violence of the sport, obviously, but also the fact that, everyone should strive to act like a knight you would think would act like, have honor, fight good, shake hands, be a sport. I really love that aspect of the sport as well, just because it kind of fulfills that childhood fantasy of always wanting to be a knight, and now you get to fight like a knight in armor, and you also, get to try your best to act like one.
Yeah, and it's, that's what I like about it too, because, and you'll see it, people comment on videos, they always talk about how if they watch the whole thing to the end where people are actually hugging and holding and, like shaking hands and stuff, they always comment about the sportsmanship afterwards.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about.
Well, Simon, I know we ran your phone straight out of battery, and we finished all of our questions. I guess I do want to know, what do you see next, kind of, for you, given the knee has you sidelined for now. Do you have any exciting plans for the future?
Well, I still fight in the singles matches and the polearm duels. So, the video on my YouTube channel is the only North American video to ever go viral with over 1 million views, and it's a singles axe fight with me.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty much is a definitive statement about axe fighting and how attractive that is for entertainment value. So I think that there'll be a lot of opportunities for me to continue fighting in the dual category, which I can still do with my knee, fighting with an axe, because it's the fact that it's entertaining and that the crowd loves it is not even debatable anymore. So I think I've still got some legs in me. I got some time. I can still do stuff.
Will we see you at FitCon in August?
Yeah, I would love to go to FitCon. That is the plan.
Awesome.
Assuming that there are people that want to fight me with an axe, I guess. It's really the last tournament I was at. I think there was like 14 guys and 7 of them dropped for one reason or another.
Yeah, undisclosed.
Well, Simon, I was at Houston and I saw what you did to Ted. So if I wanted to fight you axe before, I'm more hesitant now.
Oh, well, that was a fluke, I guess. I don't know if that was. That was, I meant to hit him in the side of the hip, not in like the front hip, which is a totally different kind of story.
Yeah.
I think I clipped his cup, with an axe. So, it shocked him. I know I didn't hit him right in the cup because I asked him about it later.
Yeah.
But it bruised around.
Yeah, he was telling us about the bruising after.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, around the cup.
God, I may have more than grazed it then, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
That's me feeling bad. It's like, well, I'm really glad that he had a cup in and everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
never
always
tried.
wear a cup.
Always wear a cup.
Yeah, I don't try to hit people there, but unfortunately, sometimes that hip shot, I've done it twice now, where I've hit people in the cup, and I feel like a total jackass.
Even
So I don't know.
females, even
I don't know
females
how to fix
wear a
that.
cup. FitCon last year, there's another female fighter that took a shot. and
Oh.
dropped that.
Yeah, Ashley, I saw that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. I think it was like 2 or 3, I thought.
Yeah, I think it was at least 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, well, thanks for your time, man. I know we're gonna hit you up for some more content in the very near future. But we sure appreciate you, and I know all these people who had questions are gonna be thrilled to see them answered.
Yeah, thanks for contacting me. Sorry for the shaky cam, but I don't really have like a camera mount or anything like that, so hopefully it's usable.
Yeah,
whole world-
we're
the
deep
whole
in
world is used to
Coronaville,
this.
so
Oh, right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
It's a
so-
good time for Zoom meetings.
yeah, I don't think people are going to be too upset about the Zoom aspect of it, given the current
All right, cool.
circumstances. So,
I
Well, you guys have a good one. And
am
yeah,
thanks
you
for-
too. Thanks again, Simon.
Yeah, and let me know if you ever get more questions or you want to ask me stuff. I love to hear myself talk, obviously. So, let me know.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it again.
And if you ever get the opportunity to take a Simon class, you definitely should. I've seen this first class. I've seen this most recent class. It's a really good time. You'll learn a lot. I'm sure Ted learned a lot. So So anybody watching, definitely take a Simon class if you're given the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the TED thing is funny. You know, I was even talking about how to bypass armor and how a parallel strike will either contact a single plate in a brigandine armor. You know, if your axe hit comes in at a diagonal, you know, it'll contact multiple plates and reduce force. But if you come in perfectly parallel, you're only going to hit one plate, and it concentrates the force into your opponent. And in this case, you know, I mentioned that, you know, when you go for a hip shot, to make sure that, in the seminar, I said, if you go for a hip shot, make sure that your swing comes in perfectly parallel, because it's more likely to bypass the armor than if it comes in at a diagonal. And then I was able to demonstrate that in real time in a real fight.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't like he was new. He started fighting in 2008, and he punched me in the face like 6,000 times.
Yeah.
I only have a little bit of sympathy, but not a whole lot.
Right.
It was great footage.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Simon.
Yeah.
Yep. You have a good day.
Until next time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bonnie. Bye.
Later. That was good.